everyone, my name is Sophia Stardew, and today I'm gonna tell you a story that kind of sounds like a modern fairy tale, at least for me it does. In the past, I've been a bit shy to talk about how I met my husband, mostly because I feel like it's those kinds of stories that you wouldn't believe it unless it happened to you, so yeah. I don't really know how to properly introduce this story, other than the fact that at some point I had to meet my husband in real life because we didn't meet in real life. In fact, we were not even from the same country. A couple of details of the story are going to be private, mostly for safety reasons, and I hope you can respect this. For a little bit of context, before I even got to know my husband, I was someone who was a little bit of an outcaster. I didn't really have many people I relied on in real life, and as I came to learn later, not even online had that many real friends. Doesn't mean that I didn't have any friends, but a lot of them were not really good friends. A lot of them were, and I'm still friends with them to this day, and I'm very happy for that. But yeah, I was not in a good space. Top of that, while I have been trying to keep some stuff mostly as more private when it came to my family situation, I think it's safe to say that I didn't really have a good relationship with them back in the day. On top of that, I was studying at a university, a career that was supposed to be kind of everything I wanted. It was an artistic career. However, the career itself was kind of killing any interest I had for art overall. So yeah, I was getting pushed constantly for a lot of things. A lot of things happened too, and overall it was just very messy, and I was very depressed. I think it's normal to say I was depressed when you have all of those things happening to you at the same time. Even then, I tried to not let that make me too depressed to the point of not doing anything. As such, despite having all of these problems in real life, I still wanted to do something. I wanted to try and not be as depressed. I wanted to try and move forward with my life, even with everything that was happening around me. As such, I remember starting a small project of mine, which sadly couldn't work out, mostly for a bunch of reasons, most of them out of my control. I did realize that at some point I needed a little bit of help with this, and I talked about it with a friend, and this friend told me, hey, I know someone that may be interested. He kind of works in the same thing you do. We both worked online jobs at the time, and it was about the same thing, even if we didn't technically knew each other, since what I worked on back in the day was something that was very broad. As such, you could be working in the same area while having someone else around the world work on the exact same thing, and you guys will never cross words. That's just what kind of, job this was. I guess you could say it's kind of like art commissions. Not exactly art commissions, but those Twitter people who say that they have open commissions for their art and they're kind of like indie? Think of something like that. It was kind of like that, you don't know every artist on Twitter that has open commissions. It's kind of like that. As such, we decided to get to know each other. I met this person during a call, and my friend introduced me to him. For the sake of simplicity, I'm going to call him by the nickname I have given him online as Sophia Stardew. As such, his name is now Pink Cat. That's the nickname I gave him in English, and that's the nickname it's going to stick for the video. So I met Pink Cat through this friend. We started to talk about things related to work. We pretty much immediately bonded, mostly because we both had a lot of experience on what we did, and we both were pretty proud of our jobs. And it was very clear that those two were very close friends, and that made me happy. This other friend that made us know each other is a friend that is still one of my friends to this day. I don't talk to him that much every now and then, but it is someone that we do keep close to our friend circle. At some point, we decided to keep talking in private, and we decided to get to know each other. Admittedly, Pink Cat was a little bit scary to me. Back in the day, he didn't have this, I guess, kind of like soft touch. Nowadays, Pink Cat he's so soft and he's so cute. But back in the day, he pretty much lived in this like all boys house. I don't know how to explain it, but he was an independent and he lived with other guys. As such, he didn't really know how to be soft. And if you know anything about me, I am extremely soft, and if you don't speak to me in a nice tone, I'm going to cry. So I'm a crybaby. I do remember talking more seriously in another call about job, and talking with multiple people at the same time. And yeah, he was very severe. I think he noticed that he scared me a little. So we decided to, let's just play. I don't bite. I may sound severe when I'm working, but that's just to work me. So we just started to attack. We started to bond. And I remember that we started to talk a lot through a game called Stardew. I really like the game. If you know a little bit more about me and the other channel, you know that Stardew has been a very important game in my life. I do consider it one of the games that saved my life, especially in one of the worst moments. And I did start to notice a lot of things that I liked about him, mostly when we were playing the game. It may sound dumb, but I feel like I have the ability to see people through their play style. I don't know if that's because I really like the whole game development stuff or if I'm just very observant, but I started to notice that Pinka was someone who immediately started to notice the money system in the game and immediately started to try to get the most out of the monetary system. For example, he immediately noticed that fishing inside the game was a very good way to get money out of it. And I do remember one of the things that he bought me this very cute plushie inside the game that I always wanted, but I never really managed to get any money inside the game. So, he just got it and I was like, oh, that's nice. Eventually he also started to notice things about me. I'm a very organized person, and Pinka he wasn't really organized back in the day. If you had only seen his desktop computer, oh my god. It was a mess. Eventually I did help him clean it up a little. But yeah, I was very organized. I pretty much separated all the objects. I always tried to surprise him with something else as a way to thank him for all the work he was doing while fishing. I also started to do a lot of things around the town. I started to tell him what to do, what to follow, and overall I helped organize everything while he did a lot of the hard work. I started to notice that we were very compatible when it came to that. And whenever you're actually searching for a relationship, you do want to search for something like that, like how compatible you are for that kind of thing. We did realize that we were very similar, but also extremely different in some things. It's very funny because we cannot be kind of the middle of something. No, we are either complete opposites or the same person, which is always a little funny to me. But yeah, I do remember having very late night calls, and overall things make me feel better. Now, I will say that I used to have a partner back in the day. However, it was a very short relationship. It was about 2 weeks long. It was a very short love relationship, and I decided to cut it up mostly because that previous love partner was not very good for me. He would blame me over things such as him hurting himself was my fault. And while I tried to be nice and to be there for him, in reality, I am sorry, but it was a 2 weeks romance. I don't think going in and just doing something like that and then blaming it on your partner, saying that it's their fault, is something very good. And I had already lived through situations like that, and I knew that it was only going to be bad, so I decided to cut the relationship. Now, this did happen. I did cut the relationship before I even started to have any kind of relationship with Pinkat, so just to clarify that, I ain't a cheater. I just cut a relationship that was doomed to fail in the first place, and after it was done, I took a little bit of personal time, and then I started to realize that I was feeling stuff for Pinka. I know a lot of people may say that I kind of got over it too fast, but again, it was a 2-week relationship, so yeah. I don't really enjoy to talk too much about the other stuff, so let's continue. Weeks went by, and we were talking very late at night, and we didn't really know what we really felt for another. I do remember that back in the day, my lights went out in my place, and I remember that I was anxious about Pink. I didn't know if he was going to know if I was okay or if he was even going to miss me, and I thought he was, I don't know, maybe too cool, and maybe he had too much stuff to do, and maybe he wouldn't even miss me. I remember I was always watching like when the lights and the internet was going to come back. It was like that for a couple of days until, I decided to look out, and I went to a place that had an internet connection. It was very nearby, so I guess it was just like my place and a couple more houses that didn't really have any kind of light of our internet connection. When I came back online, I realized that poor Pinka was so desperate trying to know if I was okay, if I was alright, something had happened to me. He had tried to call me so many times, and he was like, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you hurt? Did something happen?" And when we called, it was like, "Oh, you're okay. Yeah, I'm fine. No, don't worry. How are you? I'm fine. Okay, bye." we were kind of shy. I do remember. It was quite cute. I know. I like to remember that day in particular. At some point, we started to talk a little bit late at night, and it did start to get a little bit more romantic, and eventually got to a point where I started to converse, and I was like, okay, so what are we now? Because like we're kind of being kind of romantic, kind of not, so I'm kind of confused. And as I came to realize, he was also kind of confused. So we were both hurt by previous partners, and we didn't know if we should start something new. Especially my thing, well, it had happened sometime from the other relationship. I didn't know if it was enough time. I didn't know if that was okay. I didn't really know. Being honest, I do believe that I should have given myself some time, not just for the previous relationship, but the one previous to that. It was a whole lot of mess. I don't even like to remember that. I do wish I kinda gave myself more time, mostly for my own mental health at the time, but at the end of the day, things happen for a reason, I like to believe, and I don't regret ended up where I did. So yeah. We decided that night that we would start an online relationship, and things went well for a bit. After some time of getting used to new relationship and feeling happy, sadly a lot of things started to go down into my life again. It was a bit too calm for it being my life, sadly, and I did start to feel very depressed. A lot of things were happening in real life and online too. There was just so much happening at the same time, and it got to a point that at some point Pinka just told me, "Hey, why don't you come to my place?" Now this is obviously something that for most people it would be insane. He was living in another country, I was living in my country. I had never really done anything like that. I did try to talk to my family about leaving, that I really wanted to do it. I tried to first be nice about it, then I said that I wasn't asking for permission, that I was going to do it, but then it was just a massive fight. They simply didn't want to let me go, or honestly, they didn't want me to have any kind of decision for my own. They pretty much already had decided what my life should be, and anything that broke that made me a disappointment, so you can only guess how terrible I felt. I tried to talk it out, it didn't work. I tried to be firm in my position, it didn't work. So what else could I have? I was out of options, and I guess I just decided to take a leap of faith. I mean, I was already, to put it metaphorically, I felt like I was in a building that was already collapsing and it was going to collapse anyways, and someone was giving me the opportunity to jump to another building which could or could not be more stable, but I knew my building was going to fall anyways, so it's a dead end anyway, so what am I even losing, right? Obviously, before even choosing something like that, Pinka provided me for pictures and stuff from the place he was at. He always provided everything. We had seen each other's faces, obviously. We had shared a lot of stuff. He even got to show me his passport, which is something very personal that you don't really show to people online, mostly because, identification theft and such. But he trusted me enough to say, "Hey, come live with me." So I remember asking a lot of people around me if I should go or not. Again, I felt like I had no future in the place I was staying. I was in a place where everyone had already choose what to do for me. I was not really listened to, and other very bad things had happened. Again, there's a lot of things that I'm leaving out of what was my life back then, but it was a mess. It was a mess, and I don't think I would have survived my own head, literally. So, with seeing the pros and cons of going away, I pretty much had to escape. I pretty much just took whatever I could. I left my home and I just blocked everything. They tried to put me back again to the house, but obviously what I received were insults and screams and all that stuff, and honestly I just couldn't deal with it. So after telling them that I would be okay, that nothing would happen, that I chose to do this, and hearing their insults for a bit, I just decided to block them and just leave for the airport. It wasn't a nice time, not for a bit. But I do remember that once I reached the airport, I felt freedom for the first time in my life. I remember that was the first time I had ever cried and smiled at the same time. I don't know how to explain it. I felt free for the first time. It is not something. Getting away, pretty much escaping your home, is not something you do unless you really, really are desperate for a change, because you know that it doesn't matter what you do now, you won't be able to be better. Doesn't matter what you try, doesn't matter what you do. If everything else fails, then what else was there for me back then? So, with the prospect of a new life, I decided to take the airport, no looking back, and go and meet my online boyfriend. It was a trip of about 2 days, and I remember telling him jokingly that I wanted him to visit me with flowers.
I love you.
I remember that when he came to search for me, he came with the freaking flowers, and I was like, oh, I was joking, but thank you. I didn't know how I was going to react. I remember that I just ran to him and I just hugged him. Eventually we did take off, and in this kind of like taxis, I don't know how Americans call it, but it's kind of taxis. We took one of them and we went to his place. I'm sorry to notice that this video is kind of long. The story is very, very long, so I'm going to leave this as part 1, and if you're interested to know what happens and how we got to the situation where we got married, let me know in the comment section. Depending on how this video is received, I'm going to continue or not. Thank you so much for listening, and see you in the next one. Bye bye!